I'm Jim Collison, and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Call to Coach, recorded on October 3rd, 2014. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insight, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you right below the video window. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, and large organizations, we'd love that. You can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or on the page right next to the video, the right of the video there is actually a contact form, and you can put that in there as well. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, super easy, just Gallup-Strengthscenter.com for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video and both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening, and I get a lot of requests for this now. You want to listen to it in your car through our Spreaker app, and you can get all that information over at coaching.gallup.com. We'd love to have you live tweet with us during the program as well. Be monitoring hashtag CSFchat on Twitter, and make sure you follow at StrengthsFinder, which, by the way, big milestone this week, 5,000 followers now to our at StrengthsFinder account on Twitter, and we've grown that from about 600 just less than a year ago. So if you are now following at StrengthsFinder on Twitter, we appreciate you doing that as well. Jeremy Petrosini is our host today. He works as an advanced learning and development consultant here on the riverfront with me, and it's a great day every time I get to see him. And Jeremy, it's a great day to see you today. Welcome to Call to Coach.
Jim, thanks, man. Good to be on, and good to see some faces. I know 2 weeks ago, my friend Heather was able to lead the call for me since I was leading a course in Hong Kong. So again, kind of any of the coaches out there, those of you that are certified, it's fun that we continue to just encourage coaches around the world to do what you all are doing. So if you're new to Gallup as well, or new to this webcast, want to welcome you. Again, part of our mission at Gallup isn't just that people would complete the Strength Finder. We now have over 10.5 million people that have completed it, but our passion really is to find 1 million coaches that would help us reach 1 billion people to really discover their strengths. So we're excited to have you here with us today. As Jim mentioned, there's a live chat, and you can kind of throw out your questions along the way. I'm excited today. Our guest, Tara Tvedt, is coming in from the Cayman Islands, which we were chatting. We should have done this in person, probably, Tara.
Probably.
Probably. Since Omaha's about what, Jim? 55 degrees. But regardless of where I'm at and you're at, Tara went through our accelerated coaching program about a year ago, almost a year. And any of you who have been through a Gallup program or know a little bit about Gallup, we always start the training just talking about, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I won't forget Tara's story where she said, I just quit my job and I'm launching a brand new business. And her business is called Square Peg. She serves as an independent coach consultant down in the Cayman Islands, Bahamas. She spent a lot of her career prior to starting her business in HR and project management, was very committed to performance, understood the human capital component to performance. When she took Strength Finder back in 2004, is that right, Tara?
That's correct.
So about 10 years ago, not only became familiar with her signature themes, but also became familiar with Gallup's approach to really ask individuals, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? And Tara, I won't tell all of your story, but when she kept answering no in her own head, she realized, she was a square peg in a round hole, and in stepping out there to now launch this business, it's exciting to have you on the show. So thanks so much, Tara, for being here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Jim, I really appreciate it. I'm very, very excited to be here. And like you said, it was just short of a year ago that we met and connected, and you are 100% right. I had quit my job and put in my notice, and 30 days later, I was with you in DC, so it was very, very exciting.
Yeah. Tara, before we dive in, everybody's always interested. What are your top 5? So give us those quick, and then you can tell us a little bit about your story.
I'm going to show you this. So my top 5: ideation, input, woo, empathy, and strategic. And I don't know if you can see this.
Nice, so, yeah.
This is from when I participated and discovered my strengths in 2004 with the Marriott and a program that we partnered with at Gallup. And I actually think it's very ironic because this is from 2004 and my number 2 is input. So I've been saving this piece of paper because I might need it one day. and today's the day. Yep. So I
Awesome.
thought that was really, really funny. So that's where my strengths journey started, and I was head of the HR department. It was a brand new property we were opening, so there was kind of a core team that came together, and like I said, we partnered with Gallup to really bring in an employee self-development program. A lot of it was focused on the sales staff because it was for MVCI, the Vacation
Yep.
Club, for the timeshare piece of it. But I was really lucky because I got to lead that initiative. And I remember first just discovering my strengths and how emotional it was to really, things really started to make sense and they really, really clicked for me. And I was so fortunate at that time, really, to have the opportunity to do what I did best every single day. With that opening, I look at that opening and I had to build that HR department from scratch. So think of the ideation. Like, I got to create all these amazing things, training plans, policy and procedure development, that empathy and Whoo piece, connecting with all these new people. So that is one of my true glimpses of excellence. I look at that. And then I unfortunately left the Marriott, bittersweet, because I moved to the Cayman Islands, so it wasn't
Right.
that bad
You
of a
could
trade-off.
do anything in the Cayman Islands, right? And you're like, okay, I'll take
Yeah.
it.
But it's a great company, and so I was sad to leave. And so then my strengths journey kind of took a lull. And with the company that I moved to, I was in a recruiting role, so similar to my HR background. HR rolled out strengths. And unfortunate, what I think happens often is HR, in their good deeds of initiatives and self-development and learning, they take on programs, and employees get the program and have these amazing discoveries, just like discovering their strengths, and then nothing goes further, unfortunately, because things happen, there's other things going on, right? And so the employees are kind of left, and I was too, what do I do with this? Where do I go with this, right? So again, kind of, treading along there, but nothing too monumental. And that's when I moved into project management. And I think I do have a knack for it, but I didn't have that opportunity to do what I do best every single day. And eventually it led to, I'm not very motivated. And eventually it moved to really kind of being disengaged. And, I'm thinking about it. And I went to lunch with a friend, and she said, well, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? And I didn't even know there was coaches out there at that time. I said, you know what? I'd like to do strength finders all day long. I just love it. That's what I would do. And I started thinking, and that same day I got on the phone and talked to Jamie Libro at Gallup for 45 minutes, and it just started the plan in motion. And this is what I need to do. This is me. I'm being called to coach.
Tell us a story. So, and I love, again, both your own connection with Strength Finder, but then how cool it was. You said that you got to begin to use that within Marriott, and then obviously in the project management role, you were reminded of your own themes. But share with us a story, whether it's kind of during that time or even in your transition to be a coach or over the last year. I'd love to hear some stories where you really saw the impact that helping somebody else or their team or their organization discover their strengths really had, again, that linked to performance. Because again, that didn't change for you. Performance was something you were always committed to. Help us make that connection. How you help somebody kind of think about their strengths. Tell us a little bit about one of those stories that you have of impact.
Well, there's a couple things, and this is just maybe a nugget. And it was shortly after I'd come back from DC and my training, and I went back to my previous employer, and I had a meeting with someone there. And we were talking, and I think the night before there was some award ceremony for Angelina Jolie, and she had got this humanitarian award. And we were kind of talking about it, and what she wore, this, that, and the other. And I said, I'd really like to get like some big humanitarian award and be helping people every day. And the woman sitting next to me, she looked over, and she's very familiar with Gallup and with strengths, and she said, you are doing that every single day. And I thought, wow, I am helping people every single day be the best that they can be. So just kind of a nugget there. And surprisingly, when I came to do the training, I'd always thought of the coaching piece of it strictly professional with businesses, with
Yep.
teams, with managers. And I'd never, it was like, I didn't realize that that piece with the individual coaching was there. And I've really, really come into my own with that piece, and really, really had some successes and that I'm quite proud of, and just some real client testimonials and statements where I've made an impact in people's lives. And I think as advocates of strengths, not even necessarily being a certified coach, because I know all my colleagues that I went to training with, not everyone went on to become a certified coach, but advocates of strengths, we can really, really change people's lives just in having a conversation.
Yeah.
And another kind of simple example is my pedicurist. He was saying, we're talking and having this, you're there for an hour and you're talking,
Right.
and it's true, right? It's kind of like
Jim's nodding. Jim's nodding with you right now. Yes.
And I was just kind of explaining to him what I do, and each time I would go, he would get more and more engaged and ask me about it. And the last time I was there, he actually said to me, he said, "Tara, you've changed my life, and I've decided to make a career change and do something that I know I'm really, really good at." And that was pretty, and I wasn't coaching him, I was just telling him about the power of strengths.
Right.
And I think we have to remember, as advocates, being out there and saying that you can change people's lives.
Yeah. When you're talking about strengths, and I love the way, by the way, Tara, because I know a lot of coaches out there resonate with this. It's not just what we do in our business or what we do when we lead a strength session. It becomes part of everywhere we go, right? Thanksgiving meal, we're talking about Strength Finder. Our families, our friends probably get sick of it, but it's part of who we are. What have been some helpful kind of tips and tricks that you've found, just that really have worked for you, that have helped you master your abilities as a coach and really help, again, bring about impact to drive performance with the individuals you connect with?
Should have started out to really give a shout out to all my colleagues that started their strengths journey or were continuing their strengths journey that I was with in the DC course. But
yeah,
that's a really big piece for me right there. I continue to connect with those people on a regular basis. And I think, Jim, we actually have a phone call with you on the 16th. We arranged that, I think, kind of through Jane. So I have regular contact with those people. And the things that they're doing with strengths is absolutely amazing. And the diversity there. And so I take that opportunity that I have, this network, to learn something new every single day. My number 6 is learner, so I'm highly attracted to that kind of stuff. But we have normal conversations on a regular basis and really talk about what are you doing in your business, any case studies, what things you've been experiencing. And there's always these nuggets of information that I get that I can pull into my own practice, kind of tinker with, see how it works, see how it doesn't work. And I think that's throughout this year, I had the real opportunity to kind of test the waters to see what kind of fit me the best, and look at different clients. Is it the coaching in the professional level and going into organizations? Is it the individuals? I had the opportunity to do Strengths Quest with an amazing young girl, 16-year-old, absolutely brilliant, and some of the strengths she brought to the table were amazing. So I had that opportunity as well. So I think really that networking piece with all this information that we have available, and Jim and I talked before the call, and I think everyone at Gallup, you guys are so accessible. I mean, it's an email away and you get a response right away, and that's pretty neat for an organization that size and everything that you're doing. That's pretty neat that you continue to be accessible and promote us. So I enjoy that, and I appreciate it, and I thank you guys for that. Thank you, Gallup.
It might help that when you've emailed me, you've put in the sign speaking opportunity and came in.
that always helps.
Okay.
Let me jump in real quick and just say, Tara, you mentioned that one of the things we've been trying to focus on is capture some of those success stories for the groups, right? We've done plenty of coaching testimonies, and if you go out to our YouTube page, you can watch that. We just recently did some interviews with some coaches who've been doing this for a while, now a year. They've been certified, and they wanted to ask us some questions about how does this coaching work, and so we have 3 of those out on our YouTube page. So if you're interested, or you're thinking about the training, and you're like, what's the long-term benefit of going through our training course? And then what I want to do is jump in these groups and say what's been working for you in groups. And so for those individuals who are thinking about this and want to hear it from the coaches directly, we'll be recording 3 or 4 of these groups over the next 4 or 5 months. You guys are going to be one of them, and get an opportunity to hear it directly from the group. So our own Ryan Wolf, who has a group here. They went through a cohort training. Just the advantage of being in that cohort, of being with those, and you mentioned some of the benefits right off the bat. So we have some of those videos coming up. We're going to do your group in the next couple months here.
So yeah, we actually decided to put some formality around it, and we decided to have cocktails.
Formality?
Well, we did. We had.
Who do you think I am?
No.
She said formality, and then she said cocktails. I don't know.
Oh, that kind of formality.
So we have cocktails and conversation is what our group has. So everyone gets together after work, and we all connect virtually like this, have a glass of wine, a soda, whatever it may be. We had one man eating his dinner, but that was okay because we're all friends, and connecting and just really talking about what we're doing. And usually someone has the spotlight and shares a particular topic of interest. So that's what's going on our group, and just that wealth of information. I'm really, really amazed every single day when I talk to these different coaches and what they're doing.
So I want to ask you a couple questions, and Jim, you can chime in again too if there's stuff that pops up on the chat. But I want to ask you a couple questions about your journey in starting your own business. I know there's a lot of people out there like you who are either still working somewhere and kind of dreaming about doing that someday, but trying to figure out when's the right time and risk factor. And then there's also that piece of, do I need to get certified? Again, you had a lot of experience, from your corporate background with Marriott. Marriott was a strong client of Gallup, so we've had a partnership. You had a lot of knowledge training. You're probably somebody who could have done that without going through the 4.5-day accelerated. Tell us a little bit about why you chose to go through that training, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are thinking about it, not sure, do I need it, do I not? And then maybe the second part of that, and I can jump back in too, but the second part of that of then just kind of taking that jump, and like you and I talked last week about, it didn't just take off right away, right? It wasn't the first month out of the gates, like things are great. Yeah. But just why now looking back, it was such the right decision. Again, there's a lot of people out there I think who are in a similar boat of, what do I need? Do I need the training? Do I not? And what are the right steps, or what are some things that you learned along the way for yourself?
So I knew that, that was the jumping off point, and I needed to do something.
Yep.
And I knew that was the something that I needed to do. And I've seen through a few of the coaching engagements that I've had with clients, for some reason we think that we shouldn't be able to do what we do best every single day. We shouldn't, have everything that we want, right? People say to me, you're so lucky you get to live in the Cayman Islands. And now they're saying to me, you're so lucky you get to do what you love to do every single day. Well, we all can have that, right? So I decided this is what I need to do. Like sometimes you look at the responsibility theme, right? And a lot of times that's external, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a responsibility to my company, I have a responsibility to my husband, to my children, right? I think you also have a responsibility to yourself, right? To really find out what it is that you do best every single day, and not necessarily it has to be a coach, but what is it that you do best every single day? Find those talents and move in that direction.
Yep.
So I knew that's what I needed to do, and it was scary. It was scary. I was with my former employer for 8 years, and I had a completely different profession. I was doing project management for those 8 years. So strengths was there, but it wasn't strong like it is now. I live and breathe. This is what I do every single day. I don't know how many times a day I say talent, strength, right? So yeah, and I think, relatives and family, they look at me and they're like, okay, we've had enough now, so shut it down, right? So I thought, that was, I said full speed ahead. This is what I'm going to do. So I went ahead and did it. And like you said, the business, it takes time to set it up. And, I have to kind of be this well-rounded person right now. I have to do things that I don't like to do, that I don't do really, really well. But because I'm the one-man band right now, I've been able to rise the occasion and really, really study my strengths. So how can I be more successful at doing those parts of the business that I don't have an option right now to not do, right? So hopefully it grows to a point where I can say, here's this accounting piece, I hate it, give it to someone, someone to do.
Yep.
So I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and hit a little bit too on why, I heard you answer kind of one of the benefits of the training was that network of coaches that you now have, right? That ongoing kind of, we're in this together. You're in Cayman, somebody else is in, Philadelphia, but it's like somebody else in Florida. Like, but what, how are we connected together? It sounds like that would have been worth the cost of admission just in and of itself. But what other benefits were there for you? Again, especially with your previous knowledge. I'd say you knew a lot about Gallup, a lot about strengths. What were the other benefits for you of going through the training?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because actually I was going to put in a special request, and since you're right here, right, and maybe I need
Ask
to
it
know
publicly. Yeah.
maybe I need to know more, but I wish I could go do that, and I know I can, but I wish I could same course now
Mm,
that I've had all of these, and I'll talk project management speak, all these lessons learned.
yeah.
My mind it just started opening and opening, and this information and knowledge and power and everything I have now, to go back and I would see it in a different light, and
Yeah.
there would be things again that it would just as beneficial, but maybe from a different angle.
Yep.
And so that's one thing I think you guys can think about, kind of. And I know Paul Allen talked about what is he calling it, a strengths jamboree?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so if that's the platform,
unofficially, by the way, unofficially.
well,
Let's just be clear.
but it was posted, so it's out there for everyone.
Yeah, it is out there for the coaches to see. We haven't said that in public yet,
Oh,
but
sorry.
yeah, no,
Paul's
it's fine.
posting his ideation.
It
world's
is
embracing
something,
it,
Terry, just so you know, it's something we've been talking about for 4 or 5 years, of having this strengths, celebration, jamboree, whatever you want to call it, here in Omaha, and gather some folks together. We have not set an official date, but there has been planning on and off over the last couple years for that. So
yeah.
I don't think it's a big secret to anybody.
And the idea, even like you're saying, Tara, the hope and vision behind that is there are people like yourself that you're saying, even when I went through the training, give me more, give me a refresher, give me a sense to kind of collaborate. Again, if it's the ideas are anywhere from just kind of something virtual to in-person, Omaha. Let's run out, a big center in town where we can have people like hear from Paul and others on kind of what's happening with strengths, but also a whole myriad of workshops, breakouts. So again, I think what I'm hearing that I like from you is that ongoing learning piece. That although you had been playing with strengths for years, there was so much you gained, and even your insights. Jamie might be calling you when you get off the phone to go, "You can go again, Tara. We'll sign you up again, right?" But even just that insight of like, there's so much we do pour at you in 4.5 days. Now having kind of lived it out more, how much more would you benefit, or what more would you benefit from it? So it's kind of cool.
There is so much information, and I said to myself, I'm making this investment financially and my time. I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to be really serious about it. My number 6 is learner. I'm going to take my homework every night, and I'm going to study, practice. I'll be refreshed for the next day. Every night I was so tired. I was in bed, I think, by 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock, because there's just so much information. And I think, unfortunately, I had someone say to me, and until I went through this, and like you said, I had experience with it. I experienced firsthand with Gallup and promoting it at my property with the Marriott, and so I maybe had quite a bit of more than some people. And I had someone say to me, "Oh, I can't imagine that there's that much behind strengths." And there's so much there. And I think, unfortunately, people make these discoveries, and if it's in organizations, and then they always miss, we do the name, claim, aim. They miss this kind of the biggest piece there, that aiming piece, right? And how can I tie it to performance, whatever that performance is, if it's the hat you wear as a mom or the professional going into work every day, right? How can I be the best of the best in my objectives, in my goals, whatever it may be? And that piece, sometimes I think it gets lost.
Yep.
People don't know about it.
I have a question for you around the tools, because again, like you said, there's so much we throw at you, or the kit. I know people have bought the kit independently, and there's instruction we give in there and some videos we're now starting to put together, but even just trying to make sense of it all. I'd love to hear for you specifically with linking strengths to performance, what tools that either kind of you benefited from or maybe you've created. There's an analogy that one of my colleagues, Robin Riley, who's based in our New Zealand office, but she just co-led with me in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago, and she said it's sort of like if you go into the clothing retailer and you say to the person, they're always anxious to come up and say, "How can I help you?" She said, next time you go in, say, "I want to try on everything in the store." Right? She's like, you might overwhelm them and they'll say, "Thanks, you can leave now." But she said, imagine you go into the dressing room and they're bringing you everything. Doesn't mean you need to walk out with everything, right? And so she said a little bit like the kit and everything Gallup gives you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming. Some of it's like, I'm going to put that in my closet for later. But what for you specifically, with all those tools, resources that you benefited from, which ones do you feel like really fit you and have fit your approach, again, specifically to helping your clients drive performance?
So first of all, there are a lot of tools, and I spent a long time just studying the tools, right?
Trying them on. Yep.
Yeah. What do they look like, right? How do they work? Doing a lot of reading, and then just testing the waters, right? And so what I did find, and I have to be careful because I have that ideation piece of it, right? So I have to be careful that I don't reinvent the wheel, right?
Yep.
But I have been successful in bringing my own kind of activities to make
it. Individualizing it is still pretty key. Yep.
So that's what I really, really try to do. So the first piece, I think I'm quite lucky because I've been able to bring project management to my coaching. So it almost becomes functional coaching.
Yeah, cool.
And I think sometimes that's the speak where a real senior executive, what's the return on investment in coaching? Okay, so I run my coaching engagements, my sessions at organizations like I would a project, right? And you talk about the scope and the sequence. What does good look like at the end of this, right?
Yep.
This is the success criteria. This is what we're going to meet. And then it kind of makes some more sense to people, and they can really tie it to that performance piece of it. So I think I was fortunate to be able to think of that and bring it in, and I have ideas all the time. So in project management, one of the tools, a really common tool we use, is called a work breakdown structure, and it looks kind of like an org chart, and you're breaking the work down into manageable pieces.
Okay.
And so then I'm thinking, what happens if I made a strengths breakdown structure, right? So I had that idea. And so what I've done is I've plotted all the different tools that are available in the kit. And what I do is really understand first the client and their strengths. And then I go to my wall over there, I'm looking at it, and then I pull, they're Post-it notes, I love Post-it notes, I pull the activities that really match and pair with that client's strengths.
Awesome.
So for example, somebody strong in belief, there's that maximizing value activity that we got in the kit. They love that because it really speaks to them.
Yeah.
And so I have it plotted, and I kind of cherry pick based on who the client is and the talent and strengths they have, but always up front having this kind of conceptual planning piece. What does good look like at the end of this, and how are we going to get there?
Yeah. What I love about that too, Tara, and there's a couple things, but like, in all of our coaching programs, we talk about, and again, whether it's in any of our 2-day programs or the 4.5-day accelerated, we talk about understanding your unique coaching style, right? So we have you kind of look at your themes, look at that picture, talk about, I'm a coach who, and you obviously, like you said, leveraging your ideation, even your input, like all that stuff you loved because you'd use it at some point for somebody. The other piece, and we actually talk about this quite a bit when we talk about coaching managers, and then Gallup's got a 2-day high performance management course that we reiterate this especially for managers, is you need, once you understand your style, you need to individualize it. You need to say who's the person I'm managing, and it's the same for coaching. Yep. Who's my client? What do they need? And I like that you're not just saying what is it they told me they need or their request, but let me look at it through their lens. Let me look at their strengths. If they're high belief, do I bring out the values activity? So I love just kind of, again, you're playing to your strengths in that and your style, but also individualizing to them, which is huge. So
I think it's that ideation that I have. I've been quite crafty and quite good at kind of this strengths innovation, right?
Yep.
And playing with these tools and really making effect. But every single day is a learning journey for me.
Yeah.
And that toolkit, I have 2 of them, and they are active, and the pages are tiered and tethered and marked up, and they're in use all of the time.
Yeah.
They're all of the time. They're not tucked away and sitting on a shelf. They're active, alive, breathing, looking through them, looking how maybe, the different, there's all the tear outs that you can use and bring to the different, I have a training session with a law firm just after this call, right? So really looking at, what they're looking for, what their needs are. It's a management training program. So there's 14 individuals, and, what am I going to bring to them for their program?
Yeah, I hear a lot, and again, you and I have interacted a bit too. offline, but yeah, I hear a lot of your empathy, like again, just your ability to read and listen to your clients. So it almost kind of comes across as like that individualization piece, because it's like that mixed with your strategic of my inputs collected all this stuff, I'm listening to them, and again your ideation kicks in, right? But then that strategic, or what are the steps I could take? But empathy gives you probably a little bit of that flexibility in the moment too, of going, they're not jiving with this, how do we adjust, right?
Right.
Cool.
100%. Yeah. And
Jim,
I know
what? Here, go.
you get these looks, and they look at you and they say, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, and if I know I can have that every single day,
Awesome.
then I know I've done my job.
Yeah. Jim, any questions out there for Tara?
Yeah, for sure. Maureen asked a question earlier, and she said, I'd like to know more about her experience as a certified coach in her own company and how that varies from your experience at Marriott. Now, you had mentioned you were a project manager. Did you do any coaching at Marriott when you were there?
So when I was with Marriott, I actually was in charge of the HR department. So it was a self-development kind of employee engagement initiative that we rolled out with Gallup. So we partnered, we did strengths for all of our staff, and then we rolled into the Q12, right? And then really measuring kind of engagement levels. And we were just on the cusp of it and started doing that stuff when I left Marriott and moved to the Cayman Islands. So it was really just ramping up. It was really, really exciting. I actually didn't do any individual coaching, but I was sent away to do training with Gallup. Roy West, I think familiar with, he was part of Marriott Vacation Club when I was there, so I had interaction with him, and now I know he's gone on to really do his own thing around strengths. So I didn't do any coaching to managers or individuals at that time, and it wasn't until now in my own practice where I'm doing a lot of different styles of coaching in organizations with individuals. Like I had a 16-year-old, they did the Strengths Quest, so different aspects. Does that answer her question?
I think so. Yeah, I think she was just looking for, oftentimes when coaches, they may move out of industry and do something on their own, and they're wondering how those two experiences, we might have some folks who are in industry right now who are thinking of going out on their own. To have that lessons learned, maybe let's ask you if you could give 1 or 2 or 3 points of, hey, what is it like? I mean, you mentioned it's scary, right? You mentioned it's like you're this is it, I'm going to do this. Maybe a couple of looking back to say, here's a few things if I knew then would have made it a lot easier to make that transition.
Well, I learned through going through it, but what an opportunity to use your strengths, right? To build this business. What an opportunity I had. Like, think of the Whoo. I have to go out there and I have to sell Square Peg. I have to sell Tara as a coach. Like, what an opportunity to really, really hone in and mature that Whoo, right? So, in all of my strengths when I look at them. So it was a really good opportunity to develop my own strengths further. So I think that was a lesson learned I had there. And, I said it before, I always thought of Gallup and strengths from this corporate perspective, right? And I had this whole time to test waters, to really try different things. And sometimes that was scary too, because you thought, and I always kind of thought, maybe, the individual coaching, I'm not sure if that's really for me, right? Because of my background and my experience. But I really love it, and I'm really effective at it too. So it was scary, that piece of it too, right? Taking these tools and actually doing something with it, going out there for your first coaching session. And I have found the niche in the places that I have been really, really successful. And going on, I have an opportunity now to open my business in another location. And how amazing that I get to take all the stuff that I learned, the best of the best, and do it again. I mean, that's pretty neat, right?
Tara, have you taken the Entrepreneurial Strength Finder yet?
I was talking with my friend Richard from the course, and he's really, really into it.
Yeah, he was here in Omaha this week and went through the 2-day training on it. Yeah.
Because he and I actually had a book sent out to me, thanks to Richard, before it was even published. Now I can't remember his name. Todd?
Yep, Todd Johnson.
Yeah. So Todd sent me a book. So I think it's an exciting tool and another piece that you guys are going to. And I know a couple individuals here, a young girl, really young, that has gone out to start her own business, and what an amazing opportunity for her to look at to look at that, and I'm sure she will be quite dominant in most of the 10.
Yeah, I ask because you obviously found the courage, started the business, and it's working. So you don't necessarily need validation from Gallup, but it's interesting and I think an insightful piece, like you just said, for others who are thinking the same thing, to just look at what of those 10 entrepreneurial traits, which ones are they really strong in, where do they maybe need a complementary partnership, does it give them the validation to go, I can do this? And so it's kind of fascinating from that perspective. Our next guest, actually in 2 weeks, is somebody who's done quite a bit with the Entrepreneurial Strength Finder, so it'll be fun to kind of hear from a coach of how they're using it in that way. But yeah, definitely, I hear that entrepreneurial talent in you, and the ability to kind of do what you've done and be successful with it's encouraging. So
we'll definitely pull in Richard because
yeah,
he is talking and loves it.
Yeah, that was our first, the first cohort that went through our first 2-day course. So he was part of that this last week, which was fun. So
good.
We're super excited. We get to run through that ESF with our high school intern students coming up. They'll be taking it. They're taking it this week and bringing the results back. And because they're here on campus, Sangeeta is going to come and speak to them. So that's a great experience to have the author there. And so we're super excited about that. So Julie asked this question, and Rhonda seconded it. So I'm going to jump right to it since we had a second for that. She says, can you describe the 3 most effective things you've done to get clients? That's probably our number one question of all time when we talk about coaching. For you, what has worked well in reaching out and finding clients?
Not afraid. So no hesitation, right? It's reading my email, making the phone call, inviting someone for coffee without hesitation. So I think that's one piece, right? So kind of getting over.
Your high woo, do you still hesitate? Or do you think that gives you the courage? Yeah.
Well, no. So then my next piece is, so I've answered one, and the other 2 is networking and networking. Absolutely an amazing tool that I think gets underlooked. And you never know who you're going to meet, when you're going to meet them, and what's going to happen in the paths that you cross, and how it's going to come together for you. And, you know, we don't even have to be out there marketing or selling ourselves or selling our business. We're advocate of strengths. That's what we do. That's what we talk about. That's what we love. So even in an informal passing conversation, oh, wait a minute, tell me more about that, right? So that networking piece has been huge for me. I think we're quite lucky in Cayman because it is a smaller population. Like, so fortunate that every single one of my coaching sessions is done in person because we don't have to, like a 15-minute commute is far. And people get angry, you know, I had to wait in the road, you know. So I'm really, really fortunate that I have all these one-on-one connections. And it's always been like that. So really the no hesitation and then networking. That has been really, really effective for me. And I think, you know, I look at my talents and strengths, that woo piece, right? And I need that. And another lesson that I learned is, you know, I have my office here at home, and I try to be really effective with my time. You know, I knew there was pieces that I wasn't necessarily thrilled that I had to do, QuickBooks for one, right?
Yep.
And so I tried to like manage my time really effectively. So I'd plan, you know, meetings all in one day, you know, financials on Friday, whatever it may be. I try to be really, really effective. And I learned that I needed to be out there every single day with people. That's what I need. And so that woo was really, really fulfilled, and it brought in the business. And so I said, you know, instead of being this effective, strategic, you know, I need to be out there every single day meeting people and talking strengths. And it's what I do. It's easy for me to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing the hesitation piece, and that's what I was asking about your woo, because I think even though we have sometimes the talent to go, shouldn't that be easy? I read a great quote one time that said, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the absence of self. And so when we're worried about ourselves, when we're worried about, even like woo's number 7 for me. So there's times where you're like, well, they like what I said or did, and when we can remove ourselves from the equation, the power of strengths really drives the conversation and drives the excitement. So just kind of no hesitation, leading with what's in the best interest of other people is such a great piece of advice. And that other component too of networking, for people out there who are like, well, that's great, that's easy for Tara because she's got woo high. On a couple calls back, we interviewed somebody, Keith Baldwin out of Alaska. he doesn't have Whoo high. He has Relator high, and he actually talked about still going to those events, getting out of his office and going. But when he gets there, he says, who are the other wallflowers? A lot of them are CEOs, CFOs, people that don't really want to be at the event, but they're there. And he leverages his Relator, sticks within his talent themes to build new relationships and go deep, and it's created great opportunity for him. So again, networking is critical. Even if you don't have Whoo, for you, it obviously is where you come alive, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. That's always helpful to hear best practices that work.
I know Keith, and we've had a couple calls. We stay in regular contact. He actually emailed and said, I saw you're on Call to Coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, really using my talents and strengths at the balcony level every single time. Okay, so I'm going to an HR after work cocktail event. How am I going to really effectively, strategically use that Whoo? So I'm just not walking around the room talking to everyone, right? Or how am I going to use that learner? Find out who's going to be there, who they are, who do I need to talk to, right? And look at that things. So to be that highest level that we always talk about, that really mature, refined level.
Yeah.
And strategic, right? And how am I going to use this to have the best outcome that I can? And I think sometimes people are afraid. They think it's, oh, I don't know, maybe that's, no, you need to take charge of yourself, right? And what's the best possible outcome you can, what do you want? And you got to go out there and take it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've heard if it's your top 8, 10, 12, they're like knobs on an oven or a gas grill, right? You got to sometimes you got to turn one up, turn another one down, and just being intentional. Okay, I'm going into the setting. Which one do I need to leverage? And there's other times where we go, which one do I need to kind of turn down a little bit? So cool. Jim, anything else?
Yeah, a question we get all the time, and these are super practical questions, by the way, that we're getting in the chat room. So I appreciate these. And it's that. It comes in the form of measurement. So Anne asked this question. She said she'd like to hear what actual measurement tools have been used for changes in productivity and engagement. We did, before you answer that, I'll give you a second to think about that question, but we did some videos. Keith is one of them. We interviewed Brandon Miller of 34 Strong. And both of those are using our Q12 tool. So if you go to q12.gallup.com, you can do an assessment with the Q12 and measure their engagement. And then when you're done with it, they have them remeasure it. Not terribly expensive, those assessments. Are those 12, Jeremy? Are they 12 each or 15?
$15 each, yeah.
$15 each, and those are available if you want to do that on an individual basis. So you've been using to kind of measure that before and after productivity jump when you're coaching with them?
So I'm familiar with the Q12 because we used it at Marriott, and I think it's an amazing tool. Quick, concise, the 12 questions. It makes a lot of sense. It ties it all together with strengths. And I haven't had the opportunity to use yet here. I think it should be promoted more, first of all, because the cost has been reduced, I think, significantly.
Drastically.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did have one client, and I sent her, $15, and she just couldn't believe it, but it was a day late because they had already decided on another survey engagement tool. So that was unfortunate, but she has it kind of, so I think that's the piece, and I haven't.
She has it earmarked for when that one doesn't work.
I didn't want to say it.
She'll call you a year from now. We get it all the time, yeah.
So I think that's really neat. And then just really going back to the project management piece, right? It depends on who the client is and what their goals are, right? It could be we need to rewrite all of our job descriptions to do right fit, right role. It's going to be different for every single client, all right? And so it's really defining those success criteria, that measurement of success up front, or if is it reduced turnover, whatever it means, it's going to be different for every single client. But to make sure that that's very, very clear in the beginning, plot it, this is how we're going to get here, and then review it at the end. What are the deliverables? Were they met? And I think that's the piece where you're going to continue to get business, because it's about kind of that functional coaching piece of it, where I think sometimes that kind of return on investment talk works.
I think when I interview a lot of coaches, one of the other ones I've heard is with small business is actual revenue. So, it's one of those kinds of things. It's like if we're gonna focus on strengths, and it's easy in a small business setting, let's just actually check or track this to revenue and how we do that. And I think sometimes we try to dance around this thing and say, well, like, the value proposition, especially in the Gallup path, is a stock realized value and stock increase. And so I think let's not be afraid of that. Let's not be afraid to go into that proposition and say, as we tune your organization to work with their strengths, that should translate into increased productivity, right? It should translate into higher engagement, and if those employees are engaged, into lower costs for those employees, both in healthcare and lost productivity and sick time and those kinds of things. So I think all those pieces, sometimes we're looking for the magic bullet on this. All those pieces are already in place in a lot of these businesses. Let's track it to actual dollars and cents and not be afraid to stand on that.
Jim, there's some great resources and nuggets on that too out on the Gallup Business Journal website, where we've got how strengths boost engagement, how it boosts sales, productivity, profitability. So again, if you've got a client that's wondering, is this just a nice to have? I actually positioned this with a group of CFOs recently, where they said they had the opportunity to bring in myself to do a keynote, and the guy leading it said, it's all CFOs. We don't care about warm, fuzzy strengths HR stuff. And I said, do you care about profitability and productivity? He's like, yeah. I said, well, let me show you some of the data. And we didn't even have to really talk any further. He's like, great. When are you coming in? You got 90 minutes, And it really, the impact of strengths, it is a business strategy, not just a personality assessment. We even purposefully don't call it a personality assessment, but it gives insight to leaders on how to tap into their strengths and the strengths of their team to drive productivity and performance. So again, a lot of great articles and case studies or just stuff from our research out on the Gallup Business Journal website. So,
Jeremy, our time is up here, and so as we bring this in for landing, anything you'd like to highlight? And I will tell people, if they had additional questions, I couldn't cover them all, and there were some great ones in there. Head out to our Facebook page or our Facebook group. If you go to facebook.com/group/call-to-coach, ask to join, and you can post your questions there. Tara, are you in that group, in that Facebook group? If somebody posted a question in there, would you be able to answer it there?
I will become a...
You will? Do you see the way I just cornered you into that?
I know, I go, okay.
That'd be
she's
good.
logging on now. Yeah.
Jeremy, what do we have coming up?
Yeah, so one thing, obviously, Tara, and thank you for just your best practices, stuff that you feel like it's been beneficial. As Jim said, the Gallup-Strengths.com website is a great place to just find out more about those resources. We also will continue to do these calls. We do them twice a month, so 2 weeks from now on October 17th. We talked about the Entrepreneurial Strength Finder, but Dr. Tim Peterson is going to be on with us. He is a certified strength coach. He was actually part of that group this week that just got certified as well as an Entrepreneurial Strength Finder coach as well. He is a professor of management and the associate dean of the College of Business at North Dakota State University, and they've done a ton, not just around leadership, but around entrepreneurship. So again, kind of helping help individuals discover what they do well, how they can really give back to their communities, make the world a better place. And Tim's got some great stories of, again, both with the Strength Finder and then his new insights around the Entrepreneurial Strength Finder on really what that means for impact. So again, we'll be back with him 2 weeks from today on the 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Very cool, and I'll remind you that next Thursday's theme Thursday is positivity, so that should be a really good one. We'll have Kurt Liesfeld and a guest come in and talk about positivity. If you're looking for all these resources, we have tons of resources. By the way, if you're new to our webcasts, we've got a bunch of these out on our YouTube channel. The best way to find all the resources available for you that are absolutely free is out at the coach's blog, so coaching.gallup.com, and there's some links there that you can go to. Our Facebook group is out there. Our YouTube page is listed out there. Contact form if you want to get some information into us, and of course you can always email us, coaching@gallup.com. We want to remind you that we now have a StrengthsFinder app for both Android and iOS. The Android one is brand new. I've gotten questions for the last year. When are you guys going to get your Android app? It's out. So I expect you guys
Or just when do you go get an iPhone, Jim?
Exactly. That should have been my answer. Just go buy an iPhone. We have a brand new Android app that's out as well. Go out to either of the Apple or the Play Store, search for Strengths Finder, and download that app. You can log in with the account you created when you took the Strengths Finder, and boom, an instant reminder, because we know not everybody can remember all of them, and you can make a reminder of them every single day. Tara, thank you for coming as well from me. It's great to see you again, and thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
The program. Always good to see you, and we'll say thanks to everyone for joining us today. and we appreciate you coming out. We'll look forward to the next Call to Coach. Goodbye, everyone.